View from a balcony, pulling the blue lawn chairs next to the ice chest. Puff 2 grams in the blunt that we just blew. Now I'm getting blown by a bitch who I don't know her name. Gold chain hanging, got a few in the room, but I don't wear them out. Only wear them in the house, cause I shine so bright that I wanna blind you.
Oh, I see. Well, can you leave us for just a moment? Shibaki asked, looking at the female in front of him. When he asked this, the female nodded and left the room. So the young friend, why do you want to join my village? He asked, looking at him. Well, where I used to live, no one likes me, so I left. I left because I want to be happy somewhere else, where people are happy to see me, and I want to be somewhere where there isn't always to be struggle for me to buy something to eat. I want for me to buy somewhere can I actually feel wanted. I feel with nowhere in mind, and I just want to cross by accident. No, Naruto said, looking at the 10 figure in front of him. Shibaki nodded at this. Alright, I can see that. Well, my new friend, just tell me your name and who else in here with you, and you can become an official member, Shibaki said, looking at him. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, but I didn't come here with anyone. Well, not except my pet Kitsune, Naruto said, looking at the male figure in front of him. Shibaki heard this and looked at Naruto, a little curious, but struggled it off. All the same. Alright, well, Naruto, seems like we're all set. Just go around town and you'll leave you on your own device, Shibaki said, looking at him. When the young blonde heard this, he smiled and turned around, walked around of the room. When he did, he was greeted with the fox looking at him. Looks like we got a new home, Kusanate Naruto said, looking at the fox. The fox leaped happily and started to walk around the stairs. Yeah, good idea, Kisune. Let's start walking through the village, looking like Naruto said. As he followed behind the small animal, when he exited the building, he smiled and began to walk around with Kisune behind him. He wasn't really looking for anything in particular. However, as he was walking, he found himself slowly making his way to the park. When he got there, he smiled. It had a lake in it just like the park on Konoha did. But the only difference was the people weren't trying to drown him. This one, as he walked around, he started to feel a little sad. However, like the last time there was a really sun. Why, as he looked around, he saw that everyone had a family. The people that were doing it didn't mean to make him sad, but they were. Naruto soon found himself walking down to the sidewalk that was along the lake. He soon saw that there was a dog there, just a little Konoha. He walked to the end of it and looked at his reflection in the water. Here he was in the entire new village, and yet he felt the same. He didn't when he felt, however, his frown soon faded, and his reflection of the fox appeared next to him. He then looked at the side and placed his hand on the small fox's head. Well, nice to know you that this wasn't for nothing. At least I'll have you by my side now, Naruto said, looking at the small fox as he began to pet it. The fox let out a small yelp as Naruto said this and curled onto his lap. Naruto sighed when he saw this and began to pet the fox as he looked at the lake. However, this came to an end as he heard footsteps behind him. He decided to ignore this figure. It wasn't important. It was quiet for a long time, so Naruto had to figure that whoever it was had left. However, this thought was wiped from his head as he heard a voice speak behind him. Excuse me, but this fox is yours? He heard a small female voice ask behind him. He then turned his head to see a girl around his age standing in front of him. She had medium green hair and orange eyes, and absolutely captivating Naruto. It was probably because orange was his favorite color. Yeah, his name is Kitsune, Naruto said, looking at her. Does he bite? The female asked, coming closer to him. Well, he did bite me once, but he hasn't done it since. Naruto said, looking down at the fox. Oh, can I pet him? She asked, looking at him. I don't see why not, Naruto said, letting the girl he had just met come rather close to him. She just slowly reached down and placed her hand on the small creature's head. When she did, she smiled and began to slowly pet it. When she did, she smiled from before spreading across her face. She then stopped when the fox let out a yawn and looked at the boy in front of her. My name is Fu, she said, holding out her hand. My name is Naruto, the blonde said, taking the girl's hand. Mine is Naruto, the blonde said, reaching out his hand. The girl looked at it for a second before smiling and took it. When she did, Naruto got up with a smile on his face. When he hang out, he said, looking at her. When he asked, this girl seems a little shocked, but nodded, nonchalant. Alright, cool. What do you want to do first? Naruto asked, looking at the female in front of him. She quiet for a moment before she looked at him and smiled. Let's just walk around in town and let's see if we find something fun to do. How about we do that? The green hair female that Naruto know as Fu suggested, looking at him. Yeah, sounds great, Naruto said, looking at her. The new girl in front of him nodded. When he said this, and the two walked off the dock with the fox following closely behind the two of them. As the two walked down the street, Naruto smiled as he followed alongside Fu. However, as he did, he noticed something rather odd. It was just an over strange feeling. He was getting it, a familiar, and for whatever reason, he didn't like it. As the two walked down the streets, the blonde noticed that Fu had been quiet such for a while. When that she too also felt whatever this feeling was, Naruto began to be curious. Young child, he was looking around and saw that everyone staring at him like they used to do at the old village. He stayed silent for a couple more minutes and just listened, and he heard what he had heard his whole life. They were whispering behind his back. He then paid extra close attention to what they were saying. However, when he did, he noticed some key difference in what they were saying. Some difference that made him very clear that they weren't talking about him. They were talking about the female. Voice say, yeah, that freak. It's no wonder her parents left her when she was a baby. He heard a female response. That stupid bitch has no place hanging out with that young man and corrupting his innocence. The young man and corrupting his innocence. He heard a man saying. It then became quite clear to him that they weren't talking about him, they were talking about the female that he was with. They were talking about food. He then looked around once again to look at the people that he was passing. He then noticed that they stared weren't there directly at him. In fact, they seemed to almost completely ignore him and goes straight to Fu. Naruto then looked at Fu as they stopped in front of his house to look a lot like the apartment that the Hokage had given him back in Konoha. This is my house, Fu said, looking at the blonde in front of her. Moments of silence fell behind them before Fu finally spoke up again. I know it's not much to look at, but it's a place I can call home, Fu said, looking at him. I think it looks nice, Naruto said, looking at her. When he said that, brought a smile on the young female's face. Would you like to come inside? Fu asked, looking at him. When she asked this, Naruto smiled and nodded. Yeah, that sounds nice, Naruto said. As he looked at her, Fu then walked forward and locked the door. She went in, Naruto's following close behind her. Naruto then turned around to look for Kisane, but when he did, he found that no one was there. He looked around for a second before he heard Fu's voice call out for him. Naruto, are you okay? Fu asked, looking at him. Naruto shrugged it off. Then thought that being able to find Kisane and turn around to look at Fu, shutting the door behind him. However, if he had spent just a little bit more time looking, he would have found that the fox he had come to know as Kisane was just on the side of the house. It sat down and looked at it full heel paw before it let out a sigh. You're one interesting kid. Not many people would help a wild animal. I suggest my apologies. It's good enough, and from what I can tell, it's been accepted. I took you to a land of water and gave you a new life and stay with you until you find a new friend. I consider that a good enough for an apology for abiding you. The fox that Naruto knew as Kizune said. He then placed his paw on the ground and some light blue chakra gathered around it before a complex design spread across the ground. Naruto, huh? Well, you're kind of hard, strong, and most important to seem to care for your friends. You seem to most care. Qualification to become a new member. Master, the only one you missing being an actual ninja. However, time can also change people. Let's see if you're still the same as you were right now. In a few years or so, the fox said before slowly walked over the design and disappeared in puff of smoke as well as a design also disappearing. However, Naruto was still concerned inside the house, looking at how needy and keep everything inside was. Wow, fool, this place is awesome. Your parents must be amazing to keep this place clean, Naruto said, looking at her. However, when he said this, he saw Fu's face become slightly more pale. I didn't live with my parents, the green haired female said, looking at him. Really then, is it your grandparents? Or maybe you live with your aunts or uncles? Naruto said, looking at her. However, when he said this, she once said again, nodded her head. I live here all by myself, she said, looking at him. Really? Naruto then became a little regretful as he started to realize just how similar you two of them were. She alone, just like I was. Why is that alone? And why we deserve every village just has someone that they hate for no reason, Naruto thought to himself as he looked at her. What do I have something on my face? Fu asked, staring to feel around for anything that felt like unusual. Naruto then blushed slightly as he realized that he had been staring at her entire time. No, it's fine. I was just. Thank you for watching, and I'll put the other two tomorrow. Alright? Thank you for watching.